Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ReQuest. I'm Captain Logan, and joining me as always is Austin, the Day Ghost. Hello,
Hey
Austin.
guys, my request shirt was in the laundry, so
Okay, so
it'll
because of
return
that, you
next
have to
week.
shamelessly promote yourself.
Yeah, I was like, I don't remember my name half the time, and you don't, so I was like, I'll just put my name right there, and then we'll all know.
Wait, I don't remember your name?
Yeah, you're always like, who are you again? Oh,
I've said Day Ghost more than probably any other YouTube handle on the channel at this point.
probably.
Don't you think? Just because you're a regular co-host now, and I was saying it at the end of Rewinds for a long time before I even met you?
One, it's not like with Eric or Dan or somebody, you'd be like, oh, it's blows himself up, dude. You're like, no,
Yeah.
here it's Eric.
You know, the only reason I say your channel name, you might think it's so that I can drive traffic to your channel. I don't care about that. The main reason, no, I'm just kidding. And by the way, you can buy, I believe, that shirt, yes? Because don't
Uh,
you have
yes, I got it on. It's the thing you use,
T
TeePublic.
Public? Yeah,
I
he has
just
his
did it
own
so
T
that I,
Public store.
yeah, I just did it so that I could get shirts,
Well,
but
but
it is
but uh,
there.
but I'll tell you this: if you want to, we can put that shirt on our storefront also.
Yeah, it's up to you. It's no big.
But anyway, the main reason I keep saying is just because I think it's a really freaking cool name. Like I've always really liked it.
Oh, thank you. I get like hit or miss on that. I've had people be like, "Oh, that's a really cool name," and then other people go like, "Why would you pick that?" Like that's personal.
Anyway, tonight's movie comes from Tom, who has done several requests for us before, and we sure appreciate him on Patreon. This is a movie called Jacob the Liar, which is a Holocaust comedy drama film that came out in 1999, starring Robin Williams. A movie that Austin I had never heard of. I don't remember
Mhm.
previews for this movie. I don't remember reviews from this movie. I didn't even remember Roger Ebert talking about this. He did, and I went back and looked at all of that. It had a $45 million budget. It made almost
Yeah, not
five
even.
million dollars at the box office is all it did. So it didn't just bomb. It really bombed.
Yeah, yeah, it was like 4.6 or something million dollars. It bombed hard.
It was rough, yeah, and I don't know if it was just because uh, people kind of felt like they'd been there and done that more recently with movies like Life is Beautiful, which, by the way, that's the big thing that's always compared to with this movie, and that being like a critical darling kind of thing, and it's also a kind of somewhat of a comedy. I've never seen that movie, so
Yeah, I've
I
never
can't
seen
make
that.
that comparison myself.
Yeah, I've never seen that. So we're on our own on that one.
Yeah, so this is another movie that we're not remotely qualified to talk about. This is, except for just the fact that it's a Robin Williams thing, and we've both seen plenty of his movies, I would assume. And the thing that I immediately found myself comparing it to a lot, of course, is Good Morning Vietnam, and I felt like that was maybe like 50% of the reason he was cast in this. Did you not kind of have that too?
Well, I won't do it now, but I had my description ready of this is the prequel to Good Morning Vietnam,
Oh no!
but I'll just get that out of the way now instead. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to ruin your
No,
gag.
no,
It's
it's
great.
okay. I mean, it's Robin Williams doing a radio thing in a war. It's
Yeah, but like it's weird how literal it is. Because it's like in Good Morning Vietnam, he's a radio DJ, and here it's a story about a guy who pretends who's in a Holocaust ghetto, a Jewish man, of course, pretending like he has a radio, and it's like, oh, let's cast Robin Williams. He was in a movie about a war where he was on the radio. So we'll make him the guy who's pretending to have a radio. And then he'll have one scene where he's pretending to be on the radio, like in Good Morning Vietnam.
mhm. Yeah. They could have had him yell "Good morning, Poland," I guess, in that part.
So let's go ahead and do the synopsis, and then we'll kind of do quick sign flips and tell you what we think about this, and get a little bit more nitty gritty into it. Real quick, let me go ahead and do these super chats before we do that. Bob the Hun, $2 super chat. Isn't your name the Gray Ghost? Like from Batman? No, and I've actually asked you about this before, if Day Ghost at all had anything to do with Gray Ghost, and I think you told me that you didn't even think of it.
No, so although it is tangentially related to Batman. When I was a kid, I had like all these different comics that I would write that
This
were
is the
very
review,
obvious.
folks.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll knock this out quickly. They were all very like obvious knockoffs of different things. My Batman one was called Ghost, and there was an issue where he talks about how the criminals, they all do crime in the day instead of night because he's basically Batman. So he makes a different costume and identity called the Day Ghost. And then when I went to make a YouTube channel, I tried to make it just Ghost, but it wouldn't let me. So I went, the Day Ghost. There we go.
That's a lovely story. It's all coming back to me now. I remember you telling the story now.
Yeah, it's a little stupid.
Tom is also here. What? Oh, I did. Okay, so sorry. I'm gonna do these out of order real quick. Bob the Hun, Thank you so much. $5. Look, I watch a lot of movies, and I've slept since then. $5 super chat. You saw Life is Beautiful, Cap. You reviewed it on the channel.
We did it last week.
No, it was a few years ago. Remember the Holocaust film with the tank? What do you mean you didn't see it? Okay, so the whole movie, I kept feeling like I've seen this movie before. And this is, and I'm kind of giving away some of my feelings, but I'm kind of showing my colors a little bit. But I was like, this feels like an inferior version of this other movie I've seen, and I could not for the life of me remember what it was called, or when I saw it, or why, or how long ago it was. It was a request for the. I have seen that movie, and it is better than this, and I get why that was critically beloved and this wasn't now. And okay, yeah, my apologies to Life is Beautiful and whoever it was who asked for it. Watch it be Bob the Hun. He's gonna be like, yeah, I asked for that too. No, I don't think it was.
Don't tell me you didn't see it, Cap. I was there.
I was there. I want to say that was back during the Omnibus days. I mean, that was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, well, the requests go back that far, so I wouldn't be shocked. It's probably around that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been about a year since we started calling the show The Request, and since you came on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's hilarious. No, I kept thinking like, I had this vision where it's like there's a tank and there's somebody like standing in the way of it. I don't remember much about that movie, but I remember liking it fine. So that makes this
Vietnam or Tiananmen Square.
Maybe there's been like 6, and I don't remember any of the other ones. That makes this not the second, but the third Holocaust movie we've done by request.
Yeah, weird.
It's like a Holocaust trilogy now on the channel because we did Conspiracy, which has, by the way, a weird number of views compared to the other, because this is a real niche series, and there's a lot of movies that people request that either not a lot of people have heard of or nobody cares about us talking about it. And this show typically does, the 300 to 500 views or so, and that one's got 4,500, I think. Like, quite a few people have found it. I guess it hit an algorithm somewhere, or there's just no reviews for that, and people are for some reason looking for it. And remember, that was a movie that you were really ambivalent about and that I thought was really great.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking back on it now, I maybe appreciate it a little more.
Only because 4,000 people clicked on it. There must be something to this movie. People want to hear us talk about it.
No, it is crazy that of all things, it's like a TV movie. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is also like almost 2,000, I think, too. That one's also pretty crazy.
But not a Holocaust film.
I don't know what that movie's about.
I'm gonna look this up real quick and see how long I talked about Life is Beautiful, because I think it's hilarious that I didn't remember that I watched it, and I've talked about it.
Probably like half an hour, I'm guessing.
It's not coming up in a search right away, but I definitely have talked about it. Yeah, I don't know where it is. Anyway,
maybe it's not a separate video?
That was back when we do several in a video, so it might not be in the title.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because after a while you started doing like the separate videos like throughout the week. Maybe it just isn't one of them. Like was just in the omnibus.
Chewbacca's Lover $2 super chat says it was an Italian film, a foreign film. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. A little bit. Okay, one more super chat before we do the synopsis. Look, I was ready to get the synopsis finally in, like 4 or 5 minutes into the video, and not 13 to 15 minutes in. It's your fault,
the
folks.
rug was pulled out from under us.
Tom, $5 suit, just because my memory is that bad. I picked this movie, Tom says, because it's my favorite movie that is also pretty depressing. You guys always do good reviews. Well, you may never want to hear another one of our reviews after we get done with this, but we'll see. I mean, certainly we, Tom, appreciate the request and appreciate your opinion. We'll tell you the good and the bad.
And the ugly.
Yeah, okay, go ahead and give us a synopsis of Jakob the Liar.
Okay, so Jakob the Liar, as previously stated, is not the prequel to Good Morning Vietnam, but it is about a man in a it's not a camp, but it's like a little
it's
like
a
Jewish
ghetto.
It's like a Jewish ghetto where they put
like it was just a town and it's been turned into a ghetto.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Remember, our protagonist still lives in the place where he lived when his wife was alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, I was just trying to think of the word because I'm like, it's not technically a camp, but it's, yeah, you're right. It's the ghetto.
Yeah, because they're facing the whole movie being transported to a camp, being taken from their homes.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of one of the big threats later on. But yeah, it's, Poland in 1944. The Germans have taken over. They have all these Jewish people in this ghetto, and they live their lives. And Jakob, he overhears a thing on a radio in a German office, and then he tells Sabretooth, and then that kind of lie builds and builds, and everybody thinks that he has this radio that he does not have, and he is Jakob the Liar.
Yeah, and the reason that's a big deal is because if you had a radio, the Gestapo would kill you. That's a penalty of death thing, because if the tides of the war turn, then there's obviously the potential for an uprising at the ghetto, and so nobody's allowed to have any news from the outside world. So no newspapers, no radios, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, because you can find out information that they don't want you knowing.
Which of course is what happens immediately at the beginning of the film when Jakob gets. It's kind of nice when your protagonist's name is in the title, because then I don't have to spend the whole time trying to remember it and going like Robin Williams' character who's like the main guy.
I will never forget this main character's name, just because there's one scene where they're casting votes for who's
going to be the leader. They say it 115
and it's like,
times.
Jakob Heim, Jakob Heim, Jakob Heim.
This movie was based on, maybe you said this already earlier, okay, we should probably mention this, a 1975 German film by the same name, but in German, and I'm really, after this, kind of curious to see it.
Well, they're both based on a book.
Yes.
But, yeah.
And I think that's a historical fiction thing, not based on a real thing that happened, although it's one of those movies that kind of watches, like, here's the thing that could have maybe happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's historical fiction as well, but there's nothing in it that's too crazy.
Apparently, the ending is more or less in the book.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, maybe it's kind of. I mean, I guess given I'm getting way ahead of myself, but so the main theme of this movie is giving people hope so that they can survive. Even though things are dire, they've got a better chance of making it if if things do finally start to go their way and the tides in the war turn and the Russians do show up to save them. And so the ending of this, I'll just outright bring up real quick and spoil, is a really downer, sad kind of ending where Jakob dies and everybody gets taken off to a camp, and then right at the end you get this voiceover narration from Robin Williams who's like, but what if it didn't turn out that way, or maybe it didn't turn out that way. Apparently the book does that too.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, because that feels like one of those like big endings for like this kind of a thing. We go like, oh man, like this is going to be a really powerful ending. And I feel like the movie could have had that. It's just executed wrong.
Yeah, I think so too.
Um, a lot of this movie is, I think, really good on paper, but the execution is all off. And the ending, I have that with especially.
So I
So
forgot to grab
that
my
doesn't
sign.
surprise me.
I could go get it, but I'll just say like we'll get into more specifics, but right away I am flipping red on this. I don't think it sticks the landing, and I also so I say that the bigger issue is I also think that it's kind of that it feels like it's built on a faulty premise, and there is easier ways to execute this material where I would buy the premise, but there's like character motivation, or maybe not even motivation issues, but just like logic issues from the beginning. Like, why did you do it this way, except the script needed you to in order to contrive a story, to contrive a premise? And contrived is kind of the big like buzzword for me with this movie. And it took me out from the first 10-15 minutes in, and I kept wanting to go with it. And the whole film I kept going, yeah, but I don't understand how we got here in the first place. I kept having that the whole way through, and I'll get into more specifics, but which way would you flip? And do you feel like we're kind of on sinking sand from the very beginning?
Yeah, so I would also go red, but at the same time, this makes me like really interested to go and watch that original German film. And I'd also be interested if that film's good and reading the book.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like it's just your foundation's faulty. So it's like building a house, like you said, on top of quicksand or something. Like it's just contrived right from the beginning, and that's what the entire like premise is based around.
I think it's a big problem when you're imagining here's the thing that really could happen, and yet and maybe and maybe something like this really did, because of course I go into these things blind. I wasn't looking to see if it was based on a true story. You don't get a card at the beginning that says that or anything, and so I was going, man, it's gonna be weird if I look, and I didn't, but it'd be weird if I looked this up later, and it turns out there really was a guy in 1944 in a Jewish ghetto who pretended like he had a radio because he found out that the tides of the war were kind of turning, and maybe the Russians were coming. And then I watch this movie and I go, this doesn't feel plausible. And it should feel plausible, and it doesn't to me.
Yeah. Yeah, if anything, like if this were based on a true story, it would maybe feel like we condensed it too much because what actually happened was too long, and we
Yeah.
condensed it to a point where it becomes kind of not exactly incomprehensible, but like to the barest of bones that it is completely contrived. I guess that's just the word of the day.
Here's what's really weird about it. Roger Ebert said, and I've been quoting his reviews probably too much lately, but I've been watching a lot of Roger Ebert lately, and in his review, he said his TV review anyway. He said this movie has its heart in the right place, but the execution is off, like you said. Paraphrasing, and I agree with that. I don't think this is a cynical movie, but I do think it's an emotionally manipulative one, not because and it feels real Hollywooded, but I don't think it's because it thinks the audience is stupid. I think it's because it's just a subpar script that doesn't know how to handle this kind of material. It feels a little bit more like a first draft of like a first time writer in college or something before it feels like a compromised vision.
Hmm.
Do you agree with that?
No, I agree with that
Like
absolutely.
you said, on
And
paper everything's right. Like it should be endearing. There should be pathos. It should kind of tug at my heartstrings. And
Mhm.
by the end of it, I'm just not buying it. I'm not buying certain performances. Like the tonally, it's a little bit wonky. It's got weird setup and payoffs with its comedy. Like it doesn't know how to naturally blend the comedy with the drama. So when you get to the end of the movie and you look back at some of the comedic setups and the payoffs, I imagine on a second viewing there'd be things that I actually thought were a little funny in the first place, and then on a second viewing be like, this is darker than it means to be.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's got that where it's darker than it means to be, but it also feels super sanitized, like right from the get-go, where like we're in this.
But I don't think it thinks it's sanitized. That's what's weird about it. I don't think it's intentional sanitization. I think it's just whoever wrote this doesn't know how to write a movie like this.
No, absolutely, and I do feel like I think it's only rated PG, isn't it?
Peter Kazovitz and Dieter DeCoin are the screenwriters, and not names I immediately recognize. But anyway, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Well, I looked up at the director, and he's not really done much. I think he's done like some foreign films.
Oh, and the screenplay is also half written by the director, so.
Oh, okay.
Co-written by the director. Oh, and he goes back to 1962.
Yeah, as an actor, I think.
Yes, as an actor, that's right. But he directs documentaries going back to 64.
Oh, okay.
And then he does a bunch of TV movies. And that's interesting because you said before you looked him up that you thought this looked like a TV movie. And I was more okay with the look and the feel of this movie than you were. I didn't really have that. But that's very perceptive of you, given that he's made it looks like 20-something TV movies.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah.
All foreign stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just kind of took like a brief glance at him after I finished the movie and was like, oh, it looks like he mainly did foreign movies.
Maybe a lot of French stuff? TV. A lot of movies in French.
Oh, okay. That's the issue.
Daniver says his son is a famous French actor.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I also feel like, because I've never seen it, but watching this was how people always describe Patch Adams to me. Just like another Robin Williams thing, where it's just like we took, and that's like a real story. This isn't, but it's like we took this thing and we kind of made it more manipulative and not as good and I don't know, contrived or whatever.
It's hard to describe, right? Like, it kind of feels like it's trying too hard, but at the same time, how hard is it? This should not feel like a sitcom premise. And it does. By sitcom premise, I mean it's characters that are keeping things from each other for no good reason in order to have in order to make a comedic plot happen.
Mm-hmm. No, it's the reboot of Hogan's Heroes.
And that's what's mainly so contrived about it.
Mm-hmm. One, just certain things are strange. Like, I think Robin Williams' casting is weird, where I can't tell if he's supposed to be like entirely comedic or not comedic at all. Like, it's this weird, like, I don't know where he settles.
It's trying to balance on that line, right? Where it's trying to straddle the fence in ways that we've seen Robin Williams himself straddle the fence really well before, and this is always my go-to performance, I guess, but it wants to do the Jim Carrey thing from the reality TV movie.
Oh, The Truman Show.
From The Truman Show. It's trying to do that. Where it's playing to his comedic strengths, and he is supposed to be kind of funny in it, but at the end of the day, it is a drama, and you are supposed to, be on his side and feel for him, and it's a tragedy for that character. And, this feels like a Robin Williams star vehicle in a way that didn't for Jim Carrey.
Well, and it's also probably important to note that he was already Oscar nominated for Good Will Hunting at this point. Like, it's not like he had only done comedy stuff.
That's a good point too. Yeah, but then we've done this with Jim Carrey too, where he had his more serious movies, and then we'd kind of go back to what he was originally famous for. This is trying to do both at the same time, and so But what's weird about it is, even Good Morning Vietnam did that, and before he was super famous.
Okay, and I've never seen Good Morning Vietnam, but
it's also playing to his strengths. He's also doing his improv comedy in that, because he's doing.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't seen it in years, but what I remember from that movie is he's a radio DJ and he's entertaining the troops, and so while he's on the radio, he's making it up as he goes along, and so that gives you an opportunity for him to do his shtick without it feeling like shtick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this movie is weird.
There's one scene for it, and it comes out of nowhere, and we did that a lot in the 90s, where you had these obligatory scenes even in comedies where Robin Williams was supposed to just kind of run away with himself, where most of the rest of the movie was scripted. But like Mrs. Doubtfire, where you've got a couple of scenes where we do like a montage where we clip up a bunch of where he probably said like 75 funny things. We put like 20 of them in rapid succession. This has a scene kind of like that.
Yeah.
When he's pretending to be on the radio.
Yeah, that's kind of like your big let Robin Williams go nuts moment. But it's also weird because like his accent is like straight out of his stand-up and like not believable in any way.
Yeah, is the performance worse if you know him too well? Because I'm just seeing Robin Williams. I'm having a hard time seeing it. But part of that is because the character on paper is not as three-dimensional as they think he is.
No, and that's the other thing.
It's not as interesting as they think he is.
Yeah, and I can't tell if Robin Williams is doing a bad job or if it's just straight up bad writing and bad directing, just like anchoring him down.
I'm going to say he's doing the best he can. And there are some moments of like real sadness and pain that I'm buying, and even moments occasionally of joy that I'm buying. I think his rapport with the little girl is decent, and I don't think she's bad.
No, no, you're right. Some of that stuff works all right.
His relationship with the barber is okay.
Yeah, it's all right. It's not like amazing or anything, but
like
it's not
the flashes
terrible.
of what this movie thinks it is in the relationships that Robin Williams has with certain actors. They are trying to create rapports and relationships, but everybody, especially Robin Williams, feels kind of frustrated with the material to me, where you can tell what they thought they signed up for, and like they got to set and it just wasn't as good as they were hoping for what they were making, or maybe they signed on before they saw a script, and then they saw a script and they were like, I mean, we'll try to elevate this, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, like if you just hit either of us, I think, with this premise, you go, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that movie. I think if they didn't have a script or whatever, like you could easily sell actors when they get on set and it's like, oh, this is what we're making. Okay.
Yeah, the problem is the comedy of errors of it. You have to buy that, and I don't. The whole movie I'm going, why? And I think it's very easy to make simple changes on a second draft and make me get this from the beginning. Robin Williams or Jacob, we know what his name is. I won't forget it.
It's Jakob Heim.
Jakob Heim. Jacob, as we said at the beginning, and it's kind of contrived from the beginning, right? So let's break this down for a second for folks that haven't seen this or haven't seen it in a while. So right at the beginning, Jacob is almost out past curfew. There's a few minutes on the clock, and he thinks he has enough time to get home, but he gets stopped, and I forget what he's doing and why he's out there, but he's
chasing a newspaper because it's one of the most awkward opening credits I've ever seen, where every now and then like a credit will come up and the movie will freeze frame, but not for every credit. Like it's really awkward.
Yeah, and it seemed like thought it was doing something with that, like thematically, but I didn't know what it was. But then the symbol of he's chasing news is so obvious.
Yeah, like it's too on the nose.
He's doing that the whole movie. He's trying to like get bits of news, and I say the whole movie. I'm jumping around, but one of the problems with this movie is it kind of pretends like there's more scenes of him making up news and giving the people in the ghetto false hope than there are. There's like 3 token moments of it. Yeah, but sort of acting like it's Bruce Almighty, where we've seen all these examples of him playing God. Like, where is all of that? He does it like 3 times, and that's it. It'd be like if Jim Carrey and Bruce Almighty like brought the moon to the earth and did the parting of the waters in the soup, and that's all you got.
Yeah. I wasn't really thinking about that in the moment, but you're right. Like, we're not really showing enough of that. Especially because of how we talk about how it's impacting the the little town that they're in.
Yeah. So So you're right. The freeze frames at the beginning are really strange, and from right at the start, I was like, I don't know why we're doing this. Um, oh, I will give it. I like the kind of understated soundtrack. Most of it is just accordion music, and I dug that. Maybe there's a theme that's repeated kind of too many times, but I did like that choice. Anyway, so and I also think, because I want to give this the accolades I can give it. I also think that the sense of dread of at any point somebody might get shot, at any point the whole ghetto could get shipped off, like whether you feel like the production value is too TV, I did feel like the sense of dread was there.
Oh, see, that's one of the things I think is too sanitized.
Oh,
Where like, yeah, like I don't know, like part of me feels like it should have been R-rated. Like it's just everything about that feels, uh, like I just don't feel the stakes of it.
okay. That's where we differ. I thought the stakes were fine. But anyway, so he's under the ladder where there's a searchlight, and the German officer says, "Hey, you're out past curfew," and so now he's in trouble. And if you get in trouble in the ghetto, there's every chance that you're not going to see morning. So it's scary, right? And the guy says, "Well, you have to go to the German office," and I forget what it's called. They name it a few times, and he has to go through a fence that usually he wouldn't be allowed to go to, and go to the main officer in charge and explain why he was out past curfew. Again, he might not make it back home. He might get killed over this, and it seems like this guard just messing with him, or he's bored, he has nothing better to do, because the guy's not out past curfew. He's still got some time, at least 10 minutes. And so he gets sent in there, and the first thing I'm thinking after all of this is, this should happen a lot more often than apparently it does. Like, we're told later that no one survives going in that building unless they're an informant. Like someone that the Germans are keeping in the camp in order to get information about the people living there in case there is a rebellion, in case there's an uprising. And so if this guy is just screwing around with people, sending them in this building because he feels like it, more people are going to hear things that happen on the radio, because he sends them to that office and the guy has his radio on. Maybe it's not always on, because at the end, the idea is he was careless and it's his fault that the guy heard the radio, and so now both Jakob and the main officer in charge are in trouble. But, like, if the contrivances are there from the very beginning, that's just too easy.
Well, and you would know who the informants are if it's like, oh, this guy went to that office and then he came back.
Yeah, exactly.
He's an informant. Don't trust him.
That's a good point. Yeah, but we also, again, name of the game here is contrivance. That's the Pee Wee Herman name of the day. Word of the day. So.
Yeah, because the radio's on, and like that's already like a coincidence that the radio's on when he comes in, and he gets to hear it.
And that
for a
important
minute.
information happens right then.
And then the German officer is both maybe messing with him, but also he has a girl with him, so like she's kind of giving him a look.
I forgot about that.
Which is part of why he lets him go, I think. And so like that's also a coincidence, and like. I don't know. I think kind of try it.
But also, you're right. I was also gonna say, it's with your point about wouldn't the people in the ghetto know who the informants are? We pretend like the ghetto is way bigger than it is sometimes.
No, that is true.
Or like there's way more people there than because they talk about like there's 10 people to an apartment or a room, and then you go, well, then why does Robin Williams get this whole building to himself? He gets the upstairs and the down. Like, do they just not know that there's a restaurant under there? Like, is it a secret restaurant? Like, there should be 25 people crammed like sardines in this building.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, it's stuff like that I think makes just not feel authentic.
Yeah, it's not authentic. You just don't. And that's what's so weird about it is it's not even just the accents are fake, or that things about it don't feel, because of production values, enough like you're really in 1944. When I say it doesn't feel authentic, I mean logically and emotionally. I mean, like, it doesn't ring true as a story whenever it's said. It wouldn't matter. But one of the things that makes it feel like sometimes the ghetto is supposed to be bigger than it is there's people who have never heard of Jakob. I don't buy that. Like before even the radio thing. It's like that makes him famous. There's just not enough people. Everyone would know everybody.
Yeah, well, and then
they're all afraid they're gonna
where...
die. They'd all have to like huddle together and give each other emotional support. There could be 1,000 people all stuck. I'm telling you, it would be like high school. You'd at least recognize faces that you saw passing in the hallway. Like,
yeah,
everybody
like
would
town.
know everybody.
Yeah, like a small town.
Bless you. Austin is allergic to Jakob the Liar.
I am allergic to Nazis. I'm sorry.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, no, it would be like a small town where everybody just kind of knows each other. But then there's like a small cast of characters because we want to kind of build out this town. But then, there's like a lot of extras.
Probably the only cafe in town.
Yeah. But like when they're getting marched out at the end, we have like a ton of extras to make it look like the town was bigger.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really look like that before.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange. Just like how Gotham is like one little square
in 1989.
Yeah.
But it's a huge city.
But it's a giant city.
You get this great like cityscape, but then all the important buildings are in a 1-block radius.
Yeah, exactly. It's just houses past that. That's where everybody lives.
So then, it starts from that contrivance, and that doesn't break the movie right away or anything. But I'm like, I'm on the wrong foot with it right away, and I'm like, I'm not trusting this material, and that from the word go. And then, he goes to. Tell me if I'm remembering this wrong, because I only saw it the one time, and then I got very confused later because, right away pretty early. I want to say the first person he tells about the radio is the barber. Am I remembering this correctly? Because he goes to the barber's trying to hang himself, which is kind of played for comedy, right? And then he's like, a funny thing happened. Is that the person he has that conversation with? It's not Liev Schreiber, because that happens later.
Okay.
He's already told somebody about the I think I'm remembering this right. He's already told somebody about the incident that happened in that building.
You see, I was thinking it was Liev Schreiber, but you're right. Like he does tell the barber in that scene, doesn't he?
I thought he did, and I thought he laid it out where he's like, I heard this information on the radio when I was in. I thought he said that. Maybe I'm remembering this wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, I've only seen it once too. Yeah.
If I'm right, and again, I may be wrong about this, but if I'm right, then it means later on the barber thinking he has a radio doesn't make any sense because he knows where he heard that. So why does he think that? But I don't know if I'm right about that because I've only seen it once. So let's pass that for now, and go to the thing that really does kind of break the movie. Again, the comedy of errors of it all. So he goes he's working. What are their jobs? What are they all doing? They're just lifting. They're hauling stuff. They got like bags. They're moving around. The Germans make some of the Jews play in a band for some reason.
The Germans really like potatoes. They have to move bags of potatoes around. I don't know. There's just bags.
They like potatoes and polka. Really just things that start with P.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, Jakob and Liev Schreiber's character are working together, and he says, hey, I've got this news. Don't tell anybody. The Russians are coming. And he says, how do you know that? And he's like, well, I just do. And immediately, see, and this is why I'm pretty sure I'm right about him telling at least somebody before that. Because I'm like, well, you already told somebody that you were in that building. Mm-hmm. My whole thing is I don't get why he doesn't immediately tell Liev Schreiber's character where he got that information. And it's all just so that he can go, wait, I know how you must have a radio! And then...
Well, it's even worse than what you're describing, too. Because Liev Schreiber's like digging a hole into one of the buildings that he can escape through, and then Robin Williams is like, "Hey, don't do that. The Russians are coming." And then they kind of like awkwardly.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Because he's like, "Don't worry, it's not it's not as bleak as you think. We're maybe gonna make it. We could end up winning the war.
Hmm. And then a German soldier finds them where they're like hidden next to a door, like looking out at this German soldier coming. Leaf Schreiber has a giant crowbar, and then I guess the Germans never found that he like dig up part of the floor in that building. I guess they never noticed that.
Okay,
Uh,
that's a good point. But
it's like
so
everything about it is just wrong.
I didn't even think about that. But my big issue was just so that there can be this rumor that spreads that
Mhm.
the Russians are coming and Jacob knows about it because he has a radio, so he can keep feeding us information. Leaf Schreiber has to make the leap. You must have a radio, which is maybe not the biggest leap, but like he just assumes that's what it is, and then Jacob has to not correct him and just decide he's going to let him believe that. Um, and I think it could play if only the script was smarter. Because all you'd have to do is have, and you'd have to explain it after the fact, which you could do, especially because Jacob picks up, and the timing of this is maybe a little bit convenient. He picks up a little girl whose parents are missing and has no place to go, and he sneaks her into the ghetto and he's hiding her, which is easier than it should be because again, he has an entire like 1,000 square foot apartment all to himself, and she probably counting the cafe, it's gotta be that big, and I keep wanting to jump ahead of myself because there's just all kinds of weird things that don't work in this movie. Like, toward the end, she's just being carried around with Liev Schreiber's fiance, and nobody says anything. Like, she's just there now. But anyway, so
I had that too because there's no kids there.
I mean, maybe that works because it's just this giant crowd now, and they're all being shipped off, and the Germans aren't going to care anymore. But that was a little bit weird, I think. But anyway, so he all he'd have to do is, in the moment, be clever enough to think, you know what? It, this could be a really encouraging thing for everybody. Maybe I should let them think I have this radio. And it would have to be, I think, a response to Liev Schreiber's character taking something personal from it. What's the personal thing he could take from that, Austin? The fact that he wants to get married, which is what he does. So he goes, "Oh, the Russians are coming. Now I can live my life. Like, I trust this information. I'm going to take the risk to ask my girlfriend to marry me and assume that we can have a future together." All you got to do in that scene is for him to go, "Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm going to get married." And Robin Williams could go, "Wait, what? You're gonna do what?" And he goes, "Well, if the Russians are coming, like, why don't they have this conversation in that scene? Oh, the Russians are coming. Well, then it's fine." And then Robin Williams has two paths he can take. This is a choose your own adventure. He either goes, I'm going to tell him the truth, and you could see it in his eyes. I mean, like it'd be pretty easy for Robin Williams to play the scene, right?
Yeah.
Well, what am I gonna tell him? Like he stops for a second. It's like a 10-second pause. Well, do you have the radio or not? Yes, I do. Get married, right?
Where it's an actual character's choice. It's
Yeah,
not
and then
something that's kind of thrust on it.
and then after that, the whole movie, he goes, I can give people hope. I have this power now because he thinks I have a radio. The way it plays, he should immediately go, "Well, I heard it on the radio when I was in that building." There's no reason he wouldn't say that in that. There's no reason whatsoever.
Well, and it whips
That's the
out
problem with it.
Princess-
And he's also taking his life and everybody else in his hands for no good reason by letting him think that. That's the real problem, right? Because they're going to come in and kill him, and at the end, they take hostages, and they threaten to kill them if... And I think they do probably kill some of them, I'm not sure, if the person with the radio doesn't come forward. So, like, he's putting everybody at risk for no good reason. There's got to be a good reason. And that would do it. I would buy that.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. No, Liev Schreiber hits him with like Princess Bride logic, where he goes like, "Oh, you say you don't have a radio, which is what you would say if you didn't want me to think that you had a radio." And it's just like like you described, we could have had a scene where we actually had characters talk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of snowballs from there. Like, I keep the whole time going, okay, I get the situation now, like what it's supposed to be, but I'm not buying the setup for it. So it's really difficult to get with any of these characters, which sucks because it's an all-star cast with people I like. Alan Arkin is in this, and I think his performance is pretty good. No, everybody's got kind of stock Jewish accents. You kind of have to give it that at some point, or you can't.
That's just Alan Arkin.
Yeah, I like that he's not doing too much, honestly. But well, and I think Arkin is Jewish.
I think so too, because that's just what he sounds like.
Yeah, well, but like he is putting on a little bit of an accent, like
He's
English
exaggerating it, but
like English isn't his first language, but he does sound Jewish, and they play that for comedy, and I bring this up all the time, and nobody's seen this movie, but it's one of my favorite movies now, and it's my favorite Alan Arkin performance, Return of Captain Invincible, and where he's a washed out superhero. And it's a musical. It's bizarre. Watch it. It's great. There's a new 3-disc release that just came out that I never thought we'd get. It's awesome. It's special features. It has 2 commentaries. It has a music CD. It's awesome. But anyway,
yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, every time he spoke, all I could hear is this one very, very specific line delivery from Captain Invincible. Right before the choose your poison line, there's a part where he's like, "You'll never change." every time he spoke, that's all I could hear.
Well, see, this movie, all I could think of was the Jewish stuff in that, because do you remember the food fight scene?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
where he goes in and he's ordering meat at a butcher, and he's like, "Why are you putting mayonnaise on a corned beef sandwich?"
See, and I knew that movie originally just from the Choose Your Poison song, so like I'm more familiar with that section. So it's like every time I could just hear that one line delivery.
You gotta watch it again, because that's where he's at his most Jewish, and it's really funny.
Yeah.
So I love that he's in this, and
we gotta do a commentary eventually.
And I think, have we not done that?
I think it's on the list.
Well, I'm right after we get past October, I'm gonna start just every time putting that on the poll for Fridays. But anyway, what I was saying is it's frustrating that the material's not better and I'm not buying the characters more, because I like the cast quite a bit. Even though Robin Williams is rarely cast for the material that we have. I think we could buy him if it was, I don't want to say more character-driven, more character-focused, because it thinks it is. It's just not good at it.
No, if the execution was right, he could be really good. It's just, like I said, everything is good on paper. Just the execution's terrible.
Talk about the ending.
Oh, God. Okay. So I'm about to hit Cap with some stuff that he has no context for. Okay. So I don't know why it made me think of this while watching it, but the ending of this movie reminded me of Gran Torino, and specifically, if any of you have seen Hereditary and also the remake of Pet Sematary, the ending of this movie is to Gran Torino what the Pet Sematary remake is to Hereditary, where in Hereditary there's a little girl that's killed by like a truck, and it's like boom, and it happens like that, and it's super shocking, and like it really takes you off guard. You're like, oh my god. And then Pet Sematary, the remake, has to do that obviously because that's part of Pet Sematary, but they drag it out and they make it in slow motion and stuff, and it's like, oh, you're really feeling this, aren't you? And you just don't. Like it comes and goes. It's like I felt nothing. You drew that moment out too much. And Gran Torino, and again, I don't know why this specifically popped in my head because they're not that similar of endings, but they both this and that have your main character kind of sacrificing themselves, and then they get shot, and then they maybe make like a better future for everybody else. In this case, not really, but like maybe.
Yeah, because maybe it didn't happen the way we saw it, where it was really tragic and everybody probably died. Maybe it happened this other way, but probably not, because most of what we see after that is a kind of a dreamlike vision of what Jakob was describing when he was making up stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Things that By the way, and Roger Ebert pointed this out in his review. This is a thing that I did not think of watching it, and I should have. Where he goes, and this is in the first paragraph of his review. By the way, he wasn't buying this either. He goes. So right at the end, there's this shot of like famous jazz musician and in a band. And all these things that this little girl is imagining that she would have no context for and like couldn't possibly visualize. Like, why is she imagining these things?
No, that's great.
It's like, oh, that's a really good point you're making.
Mm-hmm. So in Gran Torino, Clint Eastwood goes up and he makes it look like he's going to shoot all these criminals because he's Clint Eastwood. But instead they gun him down, and it's like Hereditary. It's just boom, and it happens, and it's super shocking. But that was his plan from the get-go, and it's awesome. And like since I've first seen it, it's really stuck with me. This movie tries to do that kind of a thing with its main character, but it draws it out, and it's like it goes in slow, and then we like hold on things, and I feel none of the impact because you tried to make it impactful instead of it just being impactful.
Yeah. Well, and I'm distracted because you have a character giving us a voiceover posthumously. And
Yeah.
So I'm not even understanding the logic of it, and like there isn't one, and so it kind of waxes sappy, and it's like, is he talking beyond the grave, or is this just the movie talking to us now? But like it's in that accent, and it's bookended because he's talking at the beginning, and so there's something kind of weirdly pretentious about it, or it's breaking narrative rules for no reason, and I'm like I'm really not with it by the end.
It maybe would have made more sense if it was the little girl narrating at the end.
Well, she could have been bookending it. She could have been narrating from the beginning. Why did it have to be him?
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
There's no good reason. What did you think of his death scene?
Oh, that's the scene I was talking about. Like, it doesn't work at all.
Oh, you just don't think it works at all? Okay.
No, I think it's trying to be impactful, but it like.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. So you were talking about specifically the moment where he dies. Okay.
Yeah. No, that was the moment that made me.
And that those other movies were like that.
Yeah, not so much like after that, but I was talking about that scene specifically.
I just kept waiting for him to like say something, and then I think I'm glad he doesn't give a speech. Because I thought he was going to give like a big rousing speech, but then I also thought it was weird that the Germans were like, tell everybody that it was a lie, and I'm like, why would they believe you anyway? What's the point of that? I don't get a lot of things about the little girl, even though I like her performance okay. I don't understand why she thinks he has a radio at the end. Because he's taken her into the cafe and said, sit here, don't turn around, I'm going to play the radio. And from the beginning, she can tell what he's doing, and she's humoring him. And from her end, I think it's actually kind of a sweet scene. It goes on too long, and it's that like star vehicle thing where he's got to do his improv with pretending to be on the radio and stuff. But I like it from the kid's perspective. And then later, she overhears him confessing to someone that indeed he doesn't have a radio. And I like that she is kind of sensible about it when she confronts him about it, where like she's not angry and she's real fair about it. But I don't understand why she thought at that point he still had one.
Yeah, that I had no idea what was happening at the end. The little girl was like, "Come with me to the radio."
Well, and then that's the other thing I was going to say, but that's not even what I'm talking about. Like,
no, I know,
because at that point she definitely doesn't know yet. But even then, like, why does she think he has it? He pretended like he had one. Maybe the idea is she still thinks he has one, and he pretended because he thought that if he played it, they'd get caught or something. But he has to have been playing it this whole time, or he wouldn't have news from their perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Why does, and then like you said, why does she try to take people into the cafe where the radio is? Because she knows that was fake?
Yeah.
So I don't get that. Why
they get caught because of that? Like,
Yeah.
Dumb kid.
Why doesn't Alan Arkin's character destroy his radio years ago?
Hmm. Yeah, he's trying to make Robin Williams destroy his radio, but he also only destroyed the radio that he had because Robin Williams had a
Uh,
radio and it came out.
Allegedly, yeah. And like he's like, well, I've got one. I was never gonna plug it in, but now that he's got one and they're maybe gonna start looking for one, I better destroy mine. And I'm like, why'd you keep it? You're
Yeah,
mad at him for even having it. Why'd you keep it?
yeah, if you're that mad that he has one, like,
How's it worth the risk?
why do you still
Especially if you
have one?
don't plan to ever play, because he's basically acting like, I'm too scared to plug it in. Okay, why didn't you blow it up?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Why is the professor, the doctor character, the only person smart enough to figure out what Robin Williams is doing?
Because he's a doctor.
Did you have that?
Uh, yeah.
Do you remember that scene where he's like, you kind of took it too far with the jazz band,
Hmm.
and I'm like, you can, like obviously, you can work your way backwards and say, well, everybody, needs hope so bad, but like, okay, but he's the only person that like it really plays like he's smarter than everyone else. Even if the idea is, everyone else just wants to believe, so they believe. There should be more characters who go, I kind of knew what was going on, but I really wanted to believe it, so I let myself believe it. Like, where was that? There's none of that.
Hmm. No, absolutely. I think there was a part where I wondered if they were going to do that with Alan Arkin,
Yeah, sure.
but they didn't. So,
You could have had that kind of tug at your heartstrings, and this could have been, laid on too thick, but you could have had that typical scene, right, where you have all these people standing around when he finally confesses, and they all go, I don't know what you're talking about. I've seen the radio. Like, you could have that scene, right? Or like,
or they do
oh,
the
I heard it
Spartacus
too,
thing.
like.
Or they do the Spartacus thing where it's like, I have a radio, I have a radio, I have a
Well,
radio.
that'd be in a different context and a different scene.
Yeah,
Here's another question.
no, I know.
Why do the Germans wait as long as they do to go look for the radio when they apparently have known
They
about
apparently
it
always knew
for
about it.
quite a while? You have that scene where the lead officer says to Robin Williams, where he's interrogating him, "Do you think I'm stupid? We knew you had it." Okay, well then
Well,
what's the impetus now for you to go after it? Or maybe
'cause
maybe they
yeah.
didn't know and he's trying not to look stupid. Maybe that's all it was.
When they meet the doctor and they're like, our informants have told us you have a radio.
Because they have all these informants that nobody knows who they are, even though they're going back and forth.
All
Tom
the
put it into
people
a
going
super chat
down.
earlier, and it's really nice of us to give him to. It's really nice of him to give us a super chat while we're really ripping apart this movie he loves. My apologies. I cannot pull my punches. Tom says it was a train car, not a building. Okay, there was a train car that had people in it, but like across the fence, the Germans weren't in a train car, were they? They like that's a building.
Well, so what he's talking about is the scene that I was complaining about where Liev Schreiber was like digging out the floor. It was a train car, I guess, not a building.
Oh,
But
okay.
still,
I thought you were
did
talking about the
not
building I was
notice?
talking about. Because I keep trying to remember the German word for their office and it's not coming to me.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Because they said it a few times and I just don't
Uh,
remember it right off. I think it starts with an L. It's some I just cannot remember it.
No, that was from when he was digging out the floor. But I think my point still stands. Like
Oh, I agree.
nobody picked up on that. There was a guy standing there with a crowbar. Like, I don't know. You guys are Nazis. You shoot people for no reason. Like, you
Yeah.
sat back on that one? I don't know. Which I guess also plays into the why did they wait so long on the radio thing?
And I do think the movie is too long, but part of that is probably because I'm not buying the premise.
I had that too. I had like a moment where I was like, "Oh man, there's still 40 minutes left in this movie."
It kind of felt like a TV episode idea stretched to 2 hours.
Yeah, like you
But I don't
expect
think I'd have that if I was buying the characters in the situation more.
almost like you expect Doctor Who to be there.
And we really should. And we really shouldn't be wasting. That's great. And we really shouldn't be wasting time with scenes like because I just think that this is kind of easy comedy and it's not funny. Where he runs into the German bathroom in order to try to like find news, just because he doesn't have a good enough imagination to keep making up stuff. He's only told him like 3 things, and he's like, I can't think of anything else. I don't know what to say. Like, you're not gonna have brand new news every day, and they even kind of go over that. Why does he? Look, why does he have such a poor imagination when the point seemed to be kind of like, well, this guy's really imaginative. So, or at least maybe I'm rewriting the movie, but that it seems like that's what the movie ought to be, right? Where it's like
when he could make up a radio show on the fly because he's Robin Williams, but then he can't.
But he can't come up with anything better than
news?
Football scores?
Yeah. Winston Churchill told everybody the football scores.
Yeah. That was awkward and strange, and somebody wrote it down in a script, and that's weird.
Well, and it's also like
right?
a scene that's supposed to be like really comedic and goofy. Like, oh, you have this Nazi guy who like he really needs to go to the washroom, and then it just ends with the Nazi guy just beating a man. Like, that's where that tonal confusion is, right?
And I don't mean to nitpick, but there's a camera placement problem in that scene. Because Jakob goes into the bathroom and he's pulling off like newspaper pages. And I am really glad that the last page didn't have something really super juicy on it, because everything he pulls off, it just went on forever. Like everything he pulls off is just useless information. He's like, "Where's the actual news?" Like, finally, the news. And it's sports scores. Crap! And he throws it away. And then, oh no, a German officer is coming. Wants to use the bathroom. What do? I'm gonna pretend like I'm an officer. And it got, again, this is where we're differing. It got tense enough for me for a minute with that. And then the officer leaves because of a really easy, typical distraction that one of Jacob's friends does. And so he starts to walk off. And then Robin Williams leaves the bathroom, right?
And then he's just standing there,
and that's what I was gonna say. Is the officer turns around, sees him walking from there. Now he's like halfway between the bathroom and them now, so I could see him.
Nazi soldier around.
Yeah, I could see. Here's the thing: if he didn't need to use the bathroom, I could see him go. Oh, that guy's just walking. But the thing was, he was waiting for someone to leave the bathroom. So this Jewish guy, from his perspective, is walking away from the bathroom. He sees no other Nazi officers, and then he rushes in and to the bathroom. Doesn't expect anyone to be occupied. Just opens it and walks in. So he would only do that if he knew that guy was in there and he's not supposed to be in there. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it's stuff like that where I'm like,
all you had to do was edit it differently, and or put the camera somewhere else. I'd never think about that.
Or just have him like hide under the train that's right next to him. Like, I don't know. It's stuff like that where I feel like there's kind of no stakes. Like,
I mean, that's fair at that point.
The Nazis are so sanitized. This guy walked out of the bathroom, like you're saying. He would obviously notice that, but he doesn't.
I don't think the problem there is sanitization. I think
but I'm also like
it's convenience, because there are places where they just gun people down. I don't really understand what you mean by sanitization. Like, do you need blood? Do you like what is it? What is it you need? The problem is plot armor until Robin Williams is supposed to die. That's different from sanitized.
Well, and I think the people getting shot, it doesn't, I don't know, they don't put like anything to make it look authentic. Like, it just, that's also part of why I think it feels sanitized. But like, that guy gets up and he starts like dancing and singing, and he gets punched like in a comedic scene by like a none of that stuff works.
And again, you can blend that. I'm not saying you can't make a comedy or have comedic moments in even a Holocaust film. That's not my point.
No, of course.
But there are. But it is a thing where it can't decide how much of a comedy it wants to be. This will be my last point, but I want to be more specific about a point I made right at the beginning when I said that there are scenes where it's supposed to be funny, and sometimes, in my opinion, it is. And then you get to the end, and if you saw it again, you'd be like, "Oh, that's not funny anymore." And I don't think the idea is that on a second viewing, the movie would be more of a downer. I think it's just like scene to scene, it's kind of after something different, right? It doesn't know how to pull those things together and make it one cohesive piece, is what I mean. So when Robin, and this is almost like British comedy to me, like black Brit, almost like a Blackadder kind of scene, where Robin Williams goes into the barber shop, and the guy is about to hang himself, and and you get the sense that maybe like on an almost daily basis he's doing this, and Robin Williams keeps going in, and he's like, no, we have this deal, I get free haircuts. He's like, fine, and like, you never give me pancakes, but you get your free haircuts, and I hate you for it. And I think they take that too far and later, but whatever. And then at the end, he really is going to hang himself. Like, that is how he's going to die.
Yeah, so it's just like super awkward.
Yeah, so if you watch it again, you'd be like, oh, this scene's not funny anymore. And they keep playing that for comedy. There's a place later where Robin Williams goes, I don't know if I'm gonna make it much longer. I might need that. Do you still have that rope? I might need it. Like, there's still, and that's a funny line. And then at the end, the tragedy is he's gonna die the way he pretended. Like you said, execution. Like, maybe you could pull that off. And I could be kind of impressed that this thing that I thought was just that's the thing. If it felt like a flat-up comedy, because from the perspective of our main character, he's seeing, like, the funny side to everything, and then because you've seen movies like this, right, where it's one thing, and then it makes a turn, and it's something else, and it's, like, super effective at that. So the issue isn't, it has to be a comedy all the way through. It has to be a drama all the way through. You can sometimes make that switch where you thought it was one thing and it turns out to be something else. That is not what this movie is doing.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, like, it doesn't work. And I like black comedy. Like, I think some of that stuff's really cool.
And like I said, in this movie, I like some of it. Until the way it's paid off.
No, absolutely.
Anyway, yeah, so end of the day, I was not overall impressed with this movie. I liked performances, and I'm fine with the way it looks, and I like the soundtrack, and I love Alan Arkin, and I think Liev Schreiber is decent in this movie.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty good.
I think the actual scary Nazi stuff is scarier than Austin thinks it is, and I bought some of that more than he did. I think the backstory with Jakob and his wife is okay. I like him talking to her all the time. I think that's a good choice. There's individual details that are real good.
Yeah, it's just all together doesn't come together.
I agree.
That was poor choice of words, but yeah.
It's not the best sentence ever, but
you know what? That is this movie. It was good on paper. The execution was wrong.
Exactly. Okay, so once again, Tom, thanks a lot for he hasn't messaged us in a while. I always feel bad when we end up like ripping somebody's request apart, because sometimes somebody will request a thing and they'll know we're not gonna like it. And sometimes it's like, I really like this thing, and that, or that person really likes the thing, and with respect, it didn't work for me. So, my apologies, I guess.
Tom gave us the request that I quote probably the most on the show, so.
Oh, the Nick Cage one?
Yeah, the Nick Cage one.
What was that movie again?
The Family Man.
Family Man, that's what it was.
I keep wanting to call it Family Guy. But...
Remember Family Man with that opening scene that made me think we were in for the most cliche nonsense ever, and then the movie was way better than that. It was crazy. Tom says it's fine.
Remember that scene when Nick Cage was like, "I'm pissed."
That's a really interesting movie. Anyway, next time we're going to get into more Halloween-themed stuff. And
So excited.
this happened to just line up this way. Our very next request happened to be a horror film, and I'm going to move things around just slightly. There's something that should have been a couple weeks from now that I'm going to move up so that we can do. Requesters, please allow me to do this when we get into seasonal stuff, because like if somebody requests something that's Christmas time, I'm going to put it at Christmas time. So sometimes people will get bumped up because of that. Look, if you want to try to be strategic so your stuff happens earlier, that's up to you.
Well, and they're only getting bumped up by 1 week, so it's not like the biggest
Yeah,
deal.
this one kind of by a couple, but yeah. So next time, Austin, let everybody know what we're doing.
We are doing my favorite movie ever made next week. We
Is
are
it
doing.
really?
Yeah, it's my number one movie. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yep. We're doing Evil Dead 2. And then following that, we're doing Army of Darkness next week. Like the week after.
The week after, because I had Army of Darkness as a request years ago from the Geeks United Club, and I never got to it. I actually bought that on Blu-ray at one point to do, I guess DVD Blu-ray, to do a script to rewind, and I never ended up getting to it. And I still have a few movies like that I'm trying to finally get knocked out on this show, and so we're gonna go ahead and do that the week after. And then somebody requested a Stephen King movie, which we'll do the last week of this month, which is Night Shift. And I don't know anything about Night Shift, but it's Stephen King, it's horror-y. Even if it's bad, it at least fits in this month, so...
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, at least for Army of Darkness, I don't know about Evil Dead 2, you can play that by what you think. But for Army of Darkness, you should watch it with Jason because of how much he loved Doctor Strange.
I want to say yes. I want to say you and I had a conversation at one point, or maybe it was somebody else, I can't remember, but somebody said there's not like so much really scary stuff in Army of Darkness that maybe you could
Army of Darkness is like entirely a comedy.
Maybe you could get away with showing it to Mikey because he loves skeletons so much. Like,
oh, I think I said that.
Somebody told me that. Yeah.
You technically can't, but
I'm not going to do that. He's 4. But
no, don't show him that one. But I think Jason would get a kick out of that.
Well, here's the thing. I saw Army. That is the only one of those I've seen. And the pilot for Ash vs. Evil Dead, because somebody requested that once.
I remember that.
Those are the only things that I've ever seen from that franchise. Mm-hmm. And it'll be interesting finally seeing Evil Dead 2, because I've heard about it for years, and I know that it's kind of a remake of that first movie, even though it's called Evil Dead 2. Is that right? Am I remembering this correctly?
It's really weird. It is both a sequel, but also in a lot of ways it is a remake.
Okay.
And it's very much like they made a first movie, and the second movie was more so what they wanted to make in the first one. Like,
so they're sort of scrapping it,
but also not. Like, yeah. It's confusing.
But anyway, so Army of Darkness I saw in high school and really liked it. Mm-hmm. And I've never looked at the Evil Dead movies, just because the way people described them, I was always like, I don't know, that doesn't seem like what I want from these after I saw Army of Darkness, and so I didn't really want to see them. Like, that seemed like way more my thing, so I didn't bother with the other ones. But
no, I can definitely buy that you'd like Army of Darkness over the other two. I am interested to see how you'll like Doctor Strange, or Evil Dead 2, because of Doctor Strange, because you like that movie so much.
That's going to be interesting. He's talking about Doctor Strange 2 because Raimi directed both of those. In case you don't understand Austin's shorthand, he's talking about the second Doctor Strange movie because Raimi directed both of these things. And
because Doctor Strange 2 is like weirdly just fit in as many Evil Dead references as you can in a PG-13 Marvel movie.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. Like, to the point where you have like sound effects and stuff used. Like, it's crazy.
So anyway, I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
No, I'm super excited. It's my favorite movie. I own like 8 copies of it.
Oh, yeah, you told me that. Well, anyway, we will see you again next Wednesday for Evil Dead 2. Friday, we're going to be doing a double feature of blind commentaries, which we've never done before. We're going to be watching the original Wolfman, and then we're going to watch the new Halloween special for Marvel, which is Werewolf by Night. And if that movie is good, because I've had a few people,
It's got 100%. Actually, no, sorry. It dropped down to 92 today, but it had 100%
I've
yesterday.
had a few people come to me and say, you really probably should just review that, because some people think we should only do blind commentaries on bad things. I think it's fun sometimes, especially for something kind of short like that, to just maybe get our initial reactions while we're seeing it from the first time. We did this with the Snyder Cut, and we didn't go into that going, this has to be the worst thing ever. You know what I mean? Like, we were hoping that would be good. So like,
I did.
that's
But
not why
yeah,
I did that though.
no, I know.
I
But you
just
did
thought it
it
would
with
be.
the BVS Ultimate cut too.
Yeah, I just thought I forgot about that. I just thought it would be fun to kind of like
I assume
interact
that's why you did
with a
Snyder
group
cut.
while we did a watch party and kind of document our initial reactions. And then if we felt like there was enough meat on the bone and we had enough to say, we could go ahead and review it. Last week we did this with Rob Zombie's Monsters, and I do not feel the need to actually watch that straight and review it. But I but we might do that with Werewolf by Night. I don't know, but we'll be doing that the day it drops, so most people won't have had a chance to watch it yet. So that'll be a watch party before it's a commentary, of course. And I mean, we'll talk while we're watching it, but that'll be real loosey goosey, of course. And I've never seen the original Wolfman, so that'll be fun to do as well. And if you don't care for that kind of format, like I said, maybe we'll review that afterwards. We'll see what happens, but.
Yeah, no, the original Wolfman's awesome, so that'll be great. And then everybody can either see me get really giddy or really annoyed, depending on how they handle Man Thing. We'll see.
Yeah, sure. Because he's obsessed with Man Thing for some reason. Watch Man Thing be in it for like 8 seconds and it won't matter.
There's no way. There's no way they do my boy dirty like that.
I just don't think most people care that much about Man Thing, so I think it's entirely possible that it's just a cameo.
No, we've been setting him up since 2013. This payoff has to be good.
Like, Man Thing got a movie, and like it's bad, but he's big enough that I can see them doing more things with him. But your whole obsession with Man Thing feels a little bit to me like my whole thing with like Clock King or Resurrection Man, where like I keep hoping without hope that we'll do stuff with those characters. We're never gonna do anything with those characters. Like,
Well, and the difference with that is that because I used to be more like that, where I was just like, I really like Man Thing,
no, now
but now
you've read everything,
I've read all of Man Thing except for the R.L. Stein book, because I was waiting for when we did
which we
next on the list.
which we thought about maybe doing that this month, but.
Um, but like I've read all of Man Thing, and it's like everything I love condensed into one book, and I don't know how that happened because it's like as a kid I was just obsessed with that design. It was like that thing looks really weird. I really like it
And I
though.
have
There's
things like
something
that where you
about
kind of
it.
arbitrarily decide something's your favorite thing based superficially on like the one thing you like about it, and then you go, "I'm a fan of this." I hope it doesn't suck because when I finally read it, maybe I won't be a fan of this. Like I had this for years with Birds of Prey, where it's like,
Mhm.
just with characters that were in that and the TV show, which is not great, but I still really like it. But like I never really read the comics, but I thought of myself as a Birds of Prey fan. I think we all have things like that. Like you just latch onto a thing. I want this to be my favorite thing. And then you do that for so long, you start thinking of yourself as a fan of it. You're like, wait a minute, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, well, and apparently for me it's just a thing because I had it with Man Thing where like as a kid, some of the comics my dad gave me were the like Wolverine issues that had Man Thing on the other side. And like Man Thing is also something my dad brings up too, where it's like, remember Man Thing? Like that was so like what a crazy character from when he read comics. But I also have it with The Thing,
Yeah.
the John Carpenter movie, because when I was a kid, my mom's roommate had like a Blu-ray or no, DVD copy. I'm not that young. Uh, and it was that poster, with like the guy and it's like the black face that kind of like shines out.
Yeah, that's the
And
famous thing. Yeah.
yeah, and like that like amazed me as a kid, and I was like, that is one of the scariest images I've ever seen. But like I can't stop looking at it. And now it's in like my like top four favorite movies. Like that movie's awesome.
I had to do a term paper on that movie in college,
Oh, really?
comparing it to the original short story from the 50s, Who Goes
Oh,
There?
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was an independent study with my writing mentor
Mhm.
um, back in the day when I was in college, and that was neat. I don't think I still have that. I wish I did. I'd send it to you, but
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and that was my first request.
which I still have never done, and I will. But
No, just whatever.
it's on the list.
Add it to the list.
No, I mean it's on the rewind list. That will still happen on the rewind, but. Anyway, well, folks, thanks so much.
Yeah, we've gone completely off the rails. We also missed a super chat.
We did. Tom said he enjoyed the review, even though
before that
we didn't like this movie that he likes. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Senior Sticks had a $2 super chat a million years ago. I'm sure he's not here anymore. How is non-American Thanksgiving? Also, Cap High. No, that's this weekend.
It's this weekend. Yeah, I have to work now, so that sucks.
Oh no, do you really?
Yeah, I have to work Thanksgiving.
I feel like 5 different times in the last month and a half I've sent you a message like, hey, you want to do something this particular weekend? You're like, no, it's Thanksgiving. And I'm like, you gotta stop saying Thanksgiving like anybody that's not in Canada would know that. Like,
because we have real Thanksgiving, Cap.
You always said, I don't know what that means.
No, I just make fun of Americans because everybody in the Discords too, they go like, "Us, that's not really Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's in November." And I'm like, no, that's fake Thanksgiving. Real Thanksgiving's in October.
2 different countries that celebrate it for different reasons. I couldn't understand the joke when you kept saying it's a real thing. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, ours doesn't count for? I didn't know what you were talking about. Like,
your one doesn't count because it's the wrong time. It's early October, dummies.
See, I thought you were going to say something because of, like, the way America treated Native Americans. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Canada also did that.
Oh, no, Canada, there's no more high ground there.
That's what I thought you meant at first, and I was like, Austin, have you read anything about Canada and the Native Americans? Because I don't think you're right about that.
Well, we just had like a big controversy with that in like last year, but anyway.
Oh wow, okay. Well, we haven't talked about this movie in the last 20 minutes, so
we went completely off the rails.
Thanks a lot, everybody, for watching, and well, it wouldn't be the first time. You remember when we reviewed a bad Halloween movie in the middle of an R.L. Stine marathon?
Yeah, we have to fit Halloween Ends into whatever is out that week.
I want to do that. I really do. We should stop on purpose. And anyway, thanks a lot for watching, everybody. We'll see you again Friday. If you're so inclined to do that double feature with us, we're going to have a watch party. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bring some popcorn. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Central, is the Captain Logan Show, and I'm going to be talking about the new Mario movie trailer, which is supposed to drop tomorrow. Assuming it still drops, I will talk about it, and I haven't seen the new Black Panther trailer, but people have asked me to talk about that, so I'll look at that as well. So trailers tomorrow night on the Captain Logan Show, and whatever else you guys want to talk about. Nobody
Spawn
is.
Movie.
Say it again.
The Spawn movie.
Yeah, and I also need to talk about the Spawn movie. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. I was Captain Logan. This was Austin, the Day Ghost. I was gonna say, show the T-shirt, the Day Ghost, and we'll see you again next time. Bye, everybody.
See ya.